Our scripture passage today comes from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 4, verses 14 through 21. Then Jesus, filled with the power of the Spirit, returned to Galilee, and a report about him spread through all the surrounding country. He began to teach in their synagogues and was praised by everyone. When he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, he went to the synagogue on the Sabbath day, as was his custom. He stood up to read, and the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was given to him. He unrolled the scroll and found the place where it was written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." And he rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. The eyes of all in the synagogue were fixed on him. Then he began to say to them, "Today this scripture has been fulfilled in your hearing." It's good to be here today. I was just realizing that it's 1 year exactly since my last Sunday as the pastor here. So it's good to be back. And as great as it is to see familiar faces, it is equally great to see new faces. And so that's wonderful, and it's nice to see the work that you guys are continuing to do, and to recognize that it's not the same church as the one I pastored, and that's a wonderful thing. But it's good to be with you here today. Today I'm going to talk about maybe the most important question that we can ever ask. It's a very dangerous question. It's a question that can lead to change. It's a question that can lead to grief. It's a question that can help us reflect. A question that can help us challenge. It's a very important question. It's a very dangerous question, even though it's a very simple question. In fact, it's only 3 letters. And the question is, why? Why? Sometimes the question comes from a curious child over the breakfast table, over a box of cereal. "Daddy, why is the sky blue?" And for most of human history, parents have been able to just make up an answer to that question. Why is the sky blue? Well, I'll tell you why it's blue. You see, the sky is a mirror, and when you look up and you see the blue in the sky, what you're seeing is a reflection of the Earth's oceans. That's why the sky is blue. And the clouds, let's see, the clouds are continents that are going by. So if you go outside, you might look up and see the reflection of North America. Yeah, that's right. That's why the sky is blue. Nowadays, of course, we have smartphones. And so nowadays, when the kids ask those kinds of questions over the breakfast table, over the box of cereal, "Dad, why is the sky blue?" You can say, "Hang on just a minute, I have to go to the restroom." And then you go and you look up. "Why is the sky blue?" And you read up on it, and then you come back into the kitchen. "Okay, Junior, I'll tell you why the sky is blue." You see, light comes from the sun, and when it hits the atmosphere, it spreads out all the light that's hidden within the white light, because different colors travel at different wavelengths, and you have red and yellow and orange and green and purple and blue. And the atmosphere spreads out all those different colors, and because blue has the shortest wavelength, it gets spread out and scattered the most. So when you look up, the dominant color that you see is blue. And you feel really smug because you could answer that question. And you hope that the child then doesn't ask, well, why does blue have the shortest wavelengths? And that's when you say, we're running late, finish your cereal. Sometimes it's just because, So why can be a curious question. It can be unnerving if you don't know the answer. Why can also be unwelcome. It can get us to thinking about things that make us uncomfortable. I would imagine that most people at some point in their lives, after days and weeks and maybe even years, suddenly find themselves asking, why am I still in this job? It's not fulfilling. It's certainly not something I'm passionate about. Why am I still doing this? Is it just because I need a paycheck? Or do I need health insurance? Why am I still doing this? I had that question come to me many, many, many years ago when I was selling ladies' shoes. You know this little stool that the salespeople sit on in the shoe department? So I'd sit on the stool, and a woman would come by who had been wearing shoes that were 3 sizes too small for her foot, and she'd take off her shoe, and I would see a very contorted, twisted foot, and I would sit there with my 4 boxes of shoes that I was required by my manager to show every customer, no matter what they asked for, and I'd sit there, and suddenly it would hit me. Why am I in this job? And it happened again when we were in Alabama serving Methodist churches, but the Methodist church is very different there. And we found ourselves feeling, we're not passionate about this. Why? Which prompted me to go to law school and then prompted us to move out here to be with people who shared a greater sense of our why. Sometimes it's even more troubling when you find yourself at night lying in bed, just you and your thoughts, and you ask yourself, why am I still in this relationship? Should I reinvest? Should I give myself to this? Would we both be better off starting anew? I mean, these are really powerful questions. They all start with why. Sometimes why comes as a cry or a scream. Why did this have to happen to me? Every time there's a tragedy and we watch it on the news and the cameras are there with people who are living in the midst of chaos and pain, you hear people say, why did this have to happen here? Why did it have to happen to us? These are powerful, old questions that we cannot help but ask. And they are found in the Scriptures. Remember Job, when he lost everything, lost his relationships, lost his possessions, lost the illusion that he was in control of his life, lost his health. Why? It's an old question, a profound question that Job wrestled with, and we see it in the New Testament when Jesus was on the cross and the world was dark and the people were mocking and ridiculing, and he screams, why? Why does it have to be like this? Why have you forsaken me? And those are real questions, and I think people of profound faith ask those questions even if we don't know what the answers are, even if there are no answers. It is better to ask than not to. Why is a powerful question. And then the ultimate question, of course, is why am I here at all? Do you have a sense of your why? Do you have a personal why? Churches also need a why. Now that I'm a district superintendent, I have to do what the bishop tells me to. And the bishop told us all to read Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why. So we read it, and it's a book about how organizations or churches that transform the world have a real clear sense of their why, and they operate out of that why, and it tells them how they do things and what they want to do. And we're kind of concerned that United Methodism really doesn't have a clear sense of its why. Now, Linda and I grew up in another denomination that had a very clear sense of its why. Its why was to save souls. And its what was to keep people from burning in hell and to get them into heaven where the streets are paved with gold. And its how was let's get them to believe what we tell them to believe about the Bible and about Jesus. Very clear. And Lynn and I were raised in that until one day each of us independently thought to ourselves, why are we still in this relationship? And we became United Methodists. Why? Why me? Why now? And we rehearsed that a long time, but that was good. Because Methodists we're kind of clear about our what. Our what is the transformation of the world. That's the what, to transform the world. Our how seems to be being disciples or followers of Jesus. If we adopt the practices and teachings of Jesus, we will then transform the world. But our why are we doing all that, doesn't seem very clear. Maybe we need, as a group of us, to all go on the kind of spiritual journey or quest that you are about to embark on. Something that fills our spirits and our souls with passion and inspires us. I think Jesus knew his why. And I think you heard it in the passage that I read, which actually was Jesus reading a passage from the Old Testament. I think his why was to bring good news to the poor, to proclaim release to the captives, to bring recovery of sight to the blind, to set the oppressed free. And that's a pretty strong why. That's a pretty clear why. And I think it is that why that empowered Jesus to live the life that he lived. It was that why that empowered him to ask regular folk, fishermen, tax collectors, to give up everything and to come follow him. Jesus comes through, raises the question, why? And fishermen are suddenly saying, why are we still doing this job? It was being in touch with his clear why, I think, that empowered Jesus to confront the religious establishment of his day, to make enemies of powerful people. I think it was being in touch with his why that empowered Jesus to tell very creative stories where the foreigner got to be the hero and the citizens were the villains. I think Jesus was very connected to his why, and being that connected helped him to hang out with outcasts, with people who were thought of as the trash of society. I think Jesus, because he was in touch with his why, he could get through the darkness of Gethsemane. I think it was his clarity around his why that actually led him to be crucified, and that it was his clarity around his why that empowered him to forgive those who crucified him. And I think it is that why, that clear, powerful why, that he planted in the lives of his followers that have been growing ever since through resurrection into the church. And it is that why that we are sitting here in Medford, Oregon in 2017. We could not be farther away from first century Jerusalem. And yet here we are because Jesus knew his why. Do you know your why? That's a powerful question. Why would you take an interest in church? Why would you take an interest in Jesus? I hope your why is more than occasionally singing a favorite hymn. I hope your why is big. I hope it is big enough to devote your life to it. I hope your why is vast enough to empower you to love those who hate you. I hope your why is deep enough to fill you with wonder. I hope your why is grand enough to fill you with gratitude, no matter what comes your way. And I hope your why is strong enough to give you courage, even when defeat is certain. Do you know your why? It can be a powerful question that can generate a powerful response that changes the way we live. Jesus had a clear and powerful why. Do you have a clear and powerful why? Amen.